With the Dragon Ball Super manga adapting the movie, one thing that I found myself wondering was, what the heck am I supposed to talk about? There's nothing to speculate on because it's all adapting the movie now. There's nothing to report on. Like I could report on the leaks, but once those come out, it's just going to be plot details that we already know from the movie. And so I decided for this week, what I'm going to actually do is, I'm going to review the superhero movie. Now, I should have done this months and months and months ago, but I wanted to keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off until the English version came out, and I could give my full unbiased review, have some time pass to give my thoughts. Now, this video doesn't have a script. I'm not working off of any premeditated ideas of where I'm going to go in this video. So it's going to be like that one video I did a while back where it's pretty much a off-the-cuff podcast. I'm just going to rant, give you my thoughts. You can choose to disagree, and you can voice that disagreement in the comments. You can be respectful, be disrespectful, but let your opinions be known. I like to hear from people. Anyway, let's go ahead and just jump into the movie, starting off with the opening. The introduction to Hedo was a lot of fun, honestly. I liked seeing him. Break out of prison was what I thought was going on originally, but apparently what he was doing was he was just leaving prison on his scheduled date, and then he went ahead and blew it up anyway. So whenever they later go on to act like he was just a good guy who was being tricked, or maybe not necessarily a good guy, but he was just in it for the money, for the research, he's also got a bit of an evil streak in him, you know? He killed people. And while I know killing people in Dragon Ball isn't that big of a deal, it is kind of weird that the movie wants to leave you with the impression that he's just doing this for the research funds, and that he's just got this morbid curiosity. You know, from the beginning, he's also reanimating the dead to be his slaves. So it kind of leaves you with that first impression that he's some sort of evil psychopath. Probably even more evil than probably not more evil than Dr. Gero, because Dr. Gero took living people like 17 and 18 who used to be Lapis and Lazuli. So I don't want to say that, but he's definitely on that same echelon of villainy. And then we get introduced to Magenta and Carmine, of course. And the thing about Magenta in this movie is that he's voiced by the Mario voice actor, Charles Martinet, I think is how you say it, or Martinet. Now, if you haven't looked into Charles Martinet as a performer, he's a really fun guy. And I suggest you go and look up interviews of him talking about Mario. He really likes his work, and he likes the voice acting gig. And he's an interesting person. This has nothing to do with the movie itself, but it has to do with his performance in that it doesn't really sound like Mario, which, you know, that's what you would expect from a voice actor, but it is something to note that if I didn't tell you that his name was Charles Martinet, voice actor of Mario, you probably wouldn't know, so I just needed to mention that there. So the way they kind of convince Hedo to do their work is a bit of a stretch, but something that is believable by Dragon Ball standards. And I like that part of the joke is that he likes Oreos and milk. I loved that joke because I personally am a big fan of Oreos. Like, ever since I was little, Oreos have been one of my favorite things to eat, one of my favorite snacks, so to speak. So that kind of helped me relate to Hedo on a certain level, and I think that's why they left that in the movie, is because it kind of brings a bit of relatability. Like, he's just a dude, and he's not a kid. I know that he looks like a kid, and they kind of treat him like a kid sometimes, but he's a fully grown man. So I thought it would have been cooler if he was like a teenager. I could have believed that, but that's he's around, I think, college age level, so I guess that's okay. I mean, we've gotten some crazy Dragon Ball designs in the past where they look older than they are or younger than they are. Like Magenta, for example, he's so short, but you can tell he's an older man. Anyway, to build off of that, one thing that I forgot to mention was we got Vomi and Dr. Gero's son in the opening. So we understand that Dr. Gero had a tall son and a beautiful wife, and he had another son other than Android 16. The guy Android 16 was based off of, he had another son, and that is Hedo's dad. So maybe Hedo's dad was short, and he got that from Dr. Gero's mom or dad, or Vomi's mom or dad, or something like that. But anyway, that's just fun character design stuff that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And then we kind of establish ourselves with Pan and Piccolo. And I love the dynamic that they have going on because it kind of harkens back to the original Dragon Ball, which, you know, we all love Dragon Ball. If you're on this channel, you love Dragon Ball. And we get to see how much Piccolo has grown as a trainer, as a master, as a teacher. Now, in the manga, which I will touch on here for a second, just so far, the manga's adapted a little bit past this point. So I'm just going to mention that right now, just to compare it, and then maybe after the manga adapts superhero, we'll talk about the differences and stuff like that. But right now, in the manga, we got a little bit of extra detail where Piccolo picks Pan up from school, and he kind of begins her training by saying he'll make her into like a strong member of the Demon Clan or something like that. I'm not remembering the quote exactly. I've only read it through once. But he specifically mentions making her a member of the Demon Clan. And I thought that was really cute because we saw Gohan wearing Demon Clan garb several times through the series. He wears it in Superhero. You know, he's wearing Piccolo's outfit. So that's a really cool thing that, you know, he's pretty much saying that they're part of his family, which makes sense because he's always been there. And in this movie, we're seeing that he's there in place of Gohan at times, whereas for Gohan, he was kind of in place of Goku. Now, that's not to say that Gohan and Goku are similar fathers, and there's that whole debate about is Goku a bad father or not a bad father. Personally, to go on a tangent a little bit, Goku is a good father when he needs to be. Like, he will take up for his sons, and he will also put his son at risk whenever he believes in his son enough to hedge a bet on him, like letting Cell beat him up. That way, Gohan can unlock more of his potential or his power and transcend, and Goku believes in him to do that. But, you know, he was also not very interested in hanging around a lot. He was off training or doing something like that. Now, there was a lot of time where he died and was dead and came back and visited during the World Tournament Saga and the Buu Saga, and at that point, we kind of saw Goku being more of a comforting dad. Now, there's an anime-only scene where Goku hugs Goten, and that didn't happen in the manga. So, you can take it or leave it if you think Goku's a bad dad or a good dad. I think the bottom line is that we can probably agree that Gohan at least is a better dad than Goku, not that it's a competition. But we see in this movie, Piccolo is kind of picking up the slack because of Gohan's working. And what is that work? He's just doing research on bugs. I don't know if he's filling out a report to give to his boss or whatever. But I don't exactly know what Gohan does. So if you know, leave comments in the comments section down below letting me know what he does. Maybe he works by just discovering new things and filling it out on paperwork and sending it in. I don't know. Anyway, to move past that, we actually see Gohan not being able to pick up that Piccolo's there. Piccolo has to scratch the window. Gohan's like, "Hey, Piccolo, what's up? How you been?" And Piccolo just kind of gives him a kick. Gohan easily blocks it. He's like, "You thought I was out of practice, but I'm really not." Because he gets kicked or punched. I can't remember. But either way, he gets hit by Piccolo. And Piccolo's like, "Gohan, you got to pick up the slack. Here's my gi." And then he kind of does his clothes beam, gives Gohan a way to cape. And at this point in the movie, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what is going on here? Now, to go on a little bit of another tangent, but it relates directly to the movie, if you watch Dragon Ball Super, the anime, you would know that for the Tournament of Power saga, they actually trained Gohan up. He unlocked his ultimate form again. It was really cool. In this movie, they acted like he needed to take time to unlock his ultimate form again. So I don't know if they're saying if during the time of the World Tournament saga, the Universal Survival Saga, my bad. During the time of the Universal Survival Saga and the movie, that maybe Gohan got out of practice a little bit again, but he was still barely in practice to be able to block an attack from Piccolo. But we do see that little bit of a development there. And then Piccolo goes back and he gets ambushed by Gamma 2. And the thing that I find interesting about the Gammas is that I liked Gamma 2 more than I liked Gamma 1. And I think that's how they designed it. That way you'd be a little bit more depressed whenever Gamma 2 was the one that sacrificed himself to save everybody. Well, not necessarily save everybody, but kind of do a little bit of damage to Cell Max. And to move past that scene, I think it's a great scene. It's a funny scene. Not a lot to say about that. I just really like that scene. And then we keep seeing a little bit of a lull in the movie. Now, this is the part that some people complain about, some people love. I personally liked it. We get to see Piccolo going around trying to figure out what's going on with Goku and Vegeta. He visits Dende about the Dragon Balls because Piccolo's like, there's no way I'll be able to do this alone. I'll need a wish from the dragon. And then he also gets the idea for Gohan's help. Now, I'm going to skip a few details here because this video is getting a little long, but on the bottom line is they have to pretend that Pan is kidnapped. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And while all this is going on, Goku and Vegeta are on Beerus's planet, just sparring, training with Broly, Chilai, and Limo. And of course, if you've been following the manga, you would know that they're there because of Black Frieza, and they're training up for Black Frieza and stuff like that. But at the time in the movie, we didn't know. When the movie came out, we didn't know what they were doing there, you know? We were like, what is the plan here? And we thought it was just a fun B-plot. But now we know with context, they're there training for Black Frieza, whenever he may eventually show up. The manga hasn't touched on that yet, but that's something I had to note here. So it's such a small part of the movie that I can make this whole review and just not mention it all. But I'm going to mention it right here. Vegeta wins against Goku. Neither of them transform. Some people speculated it's because they don't want to reveal Ultra Ego Vegeta against Ultra Instinct Goku in the movie, and they wanted to save that for whenever the anime comes back. But honestly, when is the anime coming back? Nobody knows. Alright, getting back to the movie. Oh, I forgot to talk about Potential Unleashed Piccolo. That was cool. I like that it's just a recolor, and I think that would have been hard to do. Like, for Gohan, his ultimate form is just his black spiky hair with the bang, the single bang. And so for Piccolo, they chose to actualize that differently with a recolor. I also would have gone with his antenna sticking up a little bit, but that's okay. Now, here's the thing, is that at this point in the movie, when they pretend that Pan is kidnapped, we get to see Gohan unleash. And this was the part of the movie that I really liked, because the movie is basically pretty much getting Gohan back into gear for a large majority of it. And from interviews and from what I understood, Toriyama originally wanted Piccolo to be the main character of the movie. And then it was suggested that Gohan be involved as well as the other main character. And you can kind of tell that this is Piccolo's movie. He's really a moving force in the plot. He's the one getting everything taken care of. So whenever Gohan goes out and kind of fights Gamma 1 for Pan, and we get to see more of his potential being unleashed. We also get into the debate between, are the Gammas good or evil? Well, they're just being tricked by Magenta and Carmine and the Red Ribbon Army. That's pretty interesting, because it brings you back to earlier in the movie, whenever Magenta was telling Hedo that the Capsule Corporation was evil. And now we're seeing this flip. And I think during this, Hedo is realizing it. And so whenever the battle's over and we see, I forgot to mention this, Orange Piccolo rises from the ground with his fight with Gamma 2. And Orange Piccolo is such a cool design. It looks amazing. Orange Piccolo, he looks gorgeous. So we see that Hedo realizes what's going on, and Magenta rushes to summon forth Cell Max, even though Cell Max isn't finished. And so Hedo dispatches Magenta, but that is not before Cell Max is unleashed. Now, while this is happening, or during the events of this happening, roughly that same time period, Goten shows up, Trunks shows up, 18 shows up, Krillin shows up. So it's a nice little squad of other characters that I've been excited to see for a long time. And so to touch on Trunks and Goten for a second here, they are in the banner of my YouTube channel, and the reason why is because I love them so much. I love what they represent for the future of Dragon Ball so much. If you know me, if you've watched my videos before, I've gone on record as saying that Trunks is my favorite Dragon Ball character. And that's no small thing for me to say. Now, it's specifically the future Trunks version of the character that's my favorite character of Dragon Ball. But I really like what they've been doing with the OG Trunks, the kid Trunks going into a teen Trunks in this movie. And I like that they aged him up with the logic of Saiyan shoot up in height at certain points in their teenagehood or their adolescence. Now, some people kind of griped at that. They were like, oh, but Goku didn't. Actually, Goku did. Goku did shoot up in height because there was, near the end of the original Dragon Ball anime, he's still kid-sized. And then there's a brief time skip, and then not even like a huge time skip either. And then whenever we get to that tournament saga at the end of Dragon Ball, he's pretty much full-sized adult Goku that we see. He's still a little bit shorter than full-sized adult Goku that we see in DBZ, but he's huge. And that kind of growth doesn't happen overnight, surely. But for Saiyans, it does, because it's kind of a, how do they explain it? Like, rushing you into battle mode, like, now I'm ready for warfare, kind of thing. And so that was the logic that they used to explain why Goten and Trunks are so much taller suddenly. And some people also looked at Gohan as an example, because that is valid. Gohan does grow steadily over the series. But, obviously, the real-world answer is probably they forgot about that. But the way I'm looking at it is that Gohan grew gradually over the series because he didn't happen to inherit that Saiyan gene from his dad, where he shoots up all of a sudden. I think where he's half and half Saiyan and half human, he kind of, I think the half Saiyans kind of have the option of growing up suddenly or not, based off if they happen to have that gene. And maybe future Trunks, as we saw in the Future of Trunks special and the manga chapters, and then Dragon Ball Super, he was pretty much teenage-sized, around the time that he should have been teenage-sized, and he didn't, like, shoot up or anything. Future Trunks grew gradually. And, you know, maybe in the Future Trunks timeline, he didn't inherit that gene that lets him shoot up in height suddenly, you know? This is purely speculation, but I think it holds a little bit more weight than some of you might be thinking. So let me know in the comments section down below if you like that theory, and I'd like to hear your feedback on that. But anyway, we see Goten and Trunks show up, and I loved that so much. I got so excited for it before the movie came out. So whenever they showed up, and it's Eric Vale's voice through Trunks, he now sounds like adult Trunks, even though, you know, he's a teenager, but adult Trunks. Goten sounds different. It's so fun. Such a cool scene. And then, of course, whenever Piccolo throws that senzu bean at Gohan, and Gohan kind of misses it, and it falls because he doesn't have his glasses on. That's, of course, a reference to the DBZ part where Goku throws the Potara at Gohan and he misses against the battle against Boo. And that's really fun because there's a lot of references in this movie that if I talked about, this video would be way longer. So we see the video with Cell Max, the fight with Cell Max begin. And everybody's being pushed to their limits. Goten and Trunks fuse to make Gotenks. And they can't go Super Saiyan because it's fat Gotenks. And, oh, another thing I should mention from the manga is that the prequel arc makes it canon that Trunks met Hedo before the events of the movie. So, obviously, the anime adapts the manga, and of course, with Dragon Ball and some other anime out there, there's a unique situation where sometimes the manga adapts the anime. So, in this case, the movie came out first, the manga's adapting the movie, but they don't have to they don't have to stay 100% accurate to the source material. They can always go back and change that. So maybe if the anime for the Dragon Ball if the Dragon Ball Super anime returns and they do decide to adapt superhero, maybe they'll incorporate more of the manga's storyline into the movie. Because I know whenever Dragon Ball Super Broly came out, people were mad because there was like this epic script that was fleshing out the Saiyan backstory. We probably got more Bardock and stuff like that. And they had to cut that for time. So maybe whenever the Dragon Ball Super anime comes out, we can get more of that. We can get more of the superhero stuff. Who knows? Alright, but going into this, I already knew about Beast Gohan, but whenever you see Orange Piccolo, or I'll just call him Piccolo, being like, Gohan, I can do this, I can buy time, blah, blah, blah. You know they're building up to Piccolo, quote, sacrificing himself. We know it's not a real death. I never thought that he was going to actually die. Of course, if he did, they could have just found a way to bring him back with the Dragon Balls or something like that. But whenever Piccolo is held up by Cell Max, and it kind of reminds you of like some other scenes in Dragon Ball, for example, Goku holding Nappa up like that, or was it Nappa? It might have been Raccoon. I think it was Raccoon. Might have been both. But anyways, the point is that we see Gohan unleash the beast form. Now, whenever the movie came out, I speculated that it was probably some form of Ultimate Gohan 2. I don't think the Beast name was out yet, but I speculated that it was some form of Ultimate Gohan 2 because he was in Ultimate form whenever that form was accessed. And, Ultimate form is kind of achieved, at least in Gohan's case, with the help of the Kais, unleashing his potential and stuff like that. So that brings me back to my original point, which was Gohan is Beast form a version of Ultimate Gohan, transcending his limits and going beyond. We know with Rose Goku Black, he's got gray eyes and pink hair. In Gohan's case, he's got more red eyes and white hair. And for Rose Goku Black, I don't think they ever explained why his form is unique. It's always been assumed it was like some sort of Kai godly energy mixed in with the body and stuff like that. So if you flip those colors and you kind of squint a little bit, you can kind of see the red eyes for Gohan and the white hair for Gohan. Just something to think about. Now, the most interesting thing about this movie is that Gohan, I don't want to say the most interesting, but a really cool part, is that Gohan uses Special Beam Cannon, Piccolo's attack, whenever Piccolo's like, launch a Kamehameha or something. And so whenever Gohan launches that Special Beam Cannon, and he destroys Cell Max, and after the fight is over, he's like, yeah, Piccolo, I never stopped training. And so it kind of reminded the audience, hey, Gohan did train in the world, Universal Survival Saga. And he did keep that training up. Maybe not like up to par like Goku and Vegeta would, but we do know he was at least practicing Special Beam Cannon. And of course, at the end of this movie, we get to see Pan finally flying. That was something that started at the beginning of the movie that I forgot to mention, was that she was trying to learn how to fly. And then another thing was, in the Dragon Ball Super anime, she was a baby and she was flying around the world. Now, I think that was filler, but another reason why why that could not count for this is because she was a baby acting on instinct, and now that she's a young girl, she doesn't remember how to do it. You know what I'm saying? And so she had to learn again. That's another explanation for that. Anyway, the movie ends all happy. Gamma 2 had sacrificed himself, so Bulma hires Gamma 1 and Hedo, and Krillin is there. Again, Krillin knows about Hedo in the Dragon Ball Super manga before this, so they may adapt that differently, who knows, but it's something to think about, I guess. And everybody lives happily ever after. We get a tease of Gotenks in his regular form, not fat Gotenks, not skinny Gotenks, but we see we see Goten and Trunks fuse. So, maybe in the Dragon Ball Super manga we will get to see regular teen/adult Gotenks, who knows. Alright, and I think there was something else I was wanting to mention, but my voice is kind of getting scratchy because I've been talking nonstop for like 22, 23 minutes. So, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you have something to say, comment down below. If you feel like, subscribe. And let me know, how do you feel about these types of videos where I just walk around, record it kind of like a podcast form? And another thing is that whenever I talk about like the anime or the movies, I really can't show footage from the anime or movies because for some reason, they will copy strike you hard. Their copyright striking system is remorseless. I mean, I've tried to use footage before and it gets claimed and blocked and stuff. They're really strict on that. That's why a lot of times whenever I'm talking about DBZ, I'll just use footage from Dragon Ball Z Kakarot because it's the next best thing, in my opinion, because it pretty much summarizes the Dragon Ball Z anime. But that's going off on a tangent. What did you guys think? Please let me know. I liked the movie. If I had to give it a number, I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. Maybe an 8 on a good day. It was a lot of fun. The CGI was amazing. That's one thing that I didn't even touch on in this video. There's such a big controversy with the CGI before this movie came out because there's that statement where they said, this movie's going to be different than before, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. And people were like, oh my god, it's going to be CGI. It's going to look terrible. And then that first look came out with Goku, and people were freaking out, dude. They were like, Dragon Ball is dead. This is so choppy. It's terrible. But it kind of did that thing where Spider-Verse used choppy animation just to make it look better. Because, you know, Spider-Verse is like comic book. So they're moving, it's kind of like page-turning animation, you know, where it's kind of skippy a little bit on purpose. And I think they did some of that with the superhero movie. The thing is, though, it looked great. So I really liked how they handled it. So I like the CGI in this movie as well. Anyway, I'm going to end the video there, guys. Like I said, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and let me know what you thought of the movie. And sorry I have not been uploading as many Dragon Ball Online videos. I think I've said this before, but I'm a little pressed for time these days, and I don't have too much time on my hands to make videos a lot. But whenever I do, I really appreciate whenever you guys come through and comment and let me know how you're feeling about the video and what you think of my videos and stuff like that. So I appreciate that. Anyways, we're going to end the video here. Again, this is like my third time saying we're going to end the video here. And sorry if I sound like I'm in a bit of a rush, by the way, if I'm talking in a bit of a rush. I knew I had a lot to say about this movie, and I wanted to say it as fast as I could. This video ended up being almost 26 minutes, so yeah, I guess it was good that I decided to talk a little bit faster than I normally would have for this video. Anyway, thanks for watching. Peace out.